Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Local. Today, Go Technology Group, right here with Nick. Nick, welcome in.
With John.
Nick's late.
Nick's on his way. He's late.
There we go. I already
absolutely.
goofed. So, John, I apologize.
All good.
There we go. John Marta. I got the last name right, so we're good.
You sure did.
That's it. Welcome in. And the Go Technology Group is, as it says up there, your business technology partner.
Yep.
Tell me about you, first of all,
Sure.
And a little bit of the passion behind Go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I live here in Northbrook, Illinois. 3 boys. My wife takes care of madness in the house all day long.
God bless her.
Getting ready to get one's on his way out to college here soon, so that's gonna
Awesome.
be fun.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So I grew up in Des Plaines, Illinois. Went to school at the University of Miami. Did a stint there for 4 years. Moved to Tampa for a brief period where I got introduced to technology.
Okay.
And so I was actually a technical trainer there. So I've been teaching kids through high school as I was in college, like ACT, SAT type of stuff. And so the teaching skills were somewhat transferable. I just needed to learn the material. So I crammed in a bunch of information in a small period of time to get myself in front of a class so I could start teaching.
Love it.
And from there, it just kind of flowed and kind of took off from there. And then I ended up moving back here, got married, and then kind of started my career. So I was a tech for a while and moved my way up through management, went to grad school at Loyola, got my master's in information technology. So I was part of the business school there. So that was great. Learned a lot about business, and then made my way up to basically a director of infrastructure at Mitsubishi Electric in Vernon Hills, and then took over sort of the IT directorship role there, managed a team of like 20 to 30 people. We had 500 employees, sites all over the country. So learned pretty much all the different aspects and facets of technology there. And so
awesome.
That led me to getting out of the corporate space. So like I'm firstborn American here. My parents are immigrants from Romania. And so they were not highly educated. They wanted me to go to college, do my thing. But there was still, immigrants have a very entrepreneurial spirit. And so that was sort of ingrained in me from when I was a kid.
Sure.
And so working in a corporate space was like really counterintuitive to like what I really wanted to do.
Okay.
So after about 10, 15 years in that space, I decided I think I know enough about this stuff, the technology. I'd learned a ton about business where I finally said, I just got to do this. So
see, I love that. And I was going to ask, were you married when you made the leap into entrepreneurship?
So I was 35, 3 small kids. Ooh. Wife was at home with the kids. Hey. And my wife was like, you just need to get this out of your system. Because my big thing is, and I don't judge anyone on it, I just couldn't see myself. I had to get it out of my system where I kind of envisioned myself at the age of 55. And I went, I'm going to get so mad at myself for not trying this.
So true.
And then I just did. That was enough to kind of set me over the edge. And it was definitely it felt like a cliff, but it was definitely just a small step. And until you get into it, it's just tough. So that making that leap is probably, quitting your job is probably the hardest thing to do to start something completely off the ground.
Especially with a family. Yeah. Is to say, all right, babe, we got this.
Right.
It's going to be good.
And everyone thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
I only had a couple, maybe one friend who was just like, you're doing the right thing. Maybe some family members, but most of my family was like, you're insane. The guy when I was leaving, he told me I was crazy. And I was just like, maybe, maybe,
Yeah, right,
right?
But
But I had to.
yeah, well, somebody was that crazy to form the business that you were working in at the time as
Absolutely.
an employee. But that's cool. So what I love about that story is your passion for small businesses and entrepreneurs. You and I were talking in the green room before the show, and you kind of got that special, what we call, a sweet spot for small businesses.
Yes.
And when I say small businesses, more of the solopreneur, entrepreneur. What size?
So it kind of ranges, it started off that way, right? When I started.
Yeah.
And just to preface it, like one of my other main goals was I just had this natural desire to help people. And so I didn't know how I was going to help people in technology. And a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'm just a guy fixing computer problems. How does that help anyone? Right.
Right.
So I kind of like let it go and then I kind of roll with it. And to your point, like early on, we were doing like, I would do anything for anybody at that point because I had all the time in the world. I was scrambling to just keep my mind sane, to keep me busy. I'd do networking groups. I'd get out just to keep myself busy. And then we would get like 2, 3, 4-person businesses running small teams. And then over time, it just sort of molded and shaped itself into large organizations. So we would jump into 10 to 15, 20 employees. And, our largest customer now is about 200 employees.
Wow, that's great.
They've got sites all over the country. So it looks and feels a lot like it was when I was doing the corporate thing.
Yeah.
But just different because like I have a different impact when I can sit and talk to a business owner. And I think that's the biggest thing that I got out of this is like I could work with someone and right then and there you can give me let's do it or let's not do it versus let's talk about it through the budget cycle and let's talk about process and let's meeting about a meeting, right? It's like let's just get it done, right? Let's just go.
I love it. And when you're in that technology space, it doesn't matter what business it is now, technology is involved. And truth be told, we as business owners we know we have to have it, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Right. The pieces, the parts, what talks to what, how it talks, why it should be talking. And that's where Go comes in and says, hey, let's take a look at this. So you Go, when you say that you're the technology partner is what I love, is you're coming in to help my business understand, create efficiencies, and make sure that I can be out doing what I do well. Walk me through the process of how hard that is with these small businesses, because as you know, we'll use 216 here, the Creator Studios. I know everything. Yeah. Right. Sure. And you're going to come in and tell me, right? So there's always that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we typically will come in once we have a respective prospect that we're meeting with, and I'll do basically an assessment. And so what that assessment does is it allows me to get an overall footprint of all the technology that's in your respective environment. And so knowing what the environment looks like, then I can kind of look at where the inefficiencies within your systems might be, right? Or I might find an opportunity to do some things different that might save you some money, in the short and the long run. And then there's risk assessment, right? So part of it is what's the security side of things? How well are you protected? And, the small business space, when you're a $1 billion company, you can hire an army of security people. Yeah. Small businesses can't afford an army of security people. And so that's been one of our big pushes the last couple of years is how do we go out in this space, find the tools that will help protect clients, their systems, their data, and try to implement those things. And then annually, from that perspective, we're going through annual assessments where we're like, hey, what are you doing for the next year to 3 years? Help me understand where the business is going. Is it growing? What are the different pieces that are coming in? What are the new technologies are in the space that I need to put in front of you as potential opportunities for you to utilize in your business? So that's different, right? That's a different game, right? Versus me just coming in, you need to do this, that, and the other. And that's the game I don't play. I want to be sort of a mentor. I want to be a guide. And then you need to understand as a business owner, here are the 10 things that you put in front of me. I need to understand, not at a technical level, right? But how do these different pieces affect the core of my business? And what makes sense for me to do now? Maybe wait 6 months, 12 months, or push it out even further.
Yep.
So
I love it. Nick's trying to get in.
Oh.
When he opened the door, it shut it. So I was going to give him a text. But here's the best thing that I love about that and how you approach that is it's as a young entrepreneur, or even somebody who's been in business. I've been in business for, since 2018, so
Sure.
6 years. But I can still, you've been through it too.
Yeah.
Right. And you've been through it on the technology side, and you understand, hey, I get it. Right. Sure. But if this doesn't work over here,
yeah,
I know how to turn it on.
Right.
I know how to speak into the microphone. But what you come in with solutions. You come in with ideas to go, hey, have you thought of this?
Yep.
Instead of you're doing this wrong.
Yep.
And
I preach to the team too. The team manages pretty much all the help desk stuff on a daily basis. For all intents and purposes, there's only a couple things that can make us better than that we make us as good as we can be. One is speed to respond. People want to be heard. So we respond to every single ticket that comes in within 15 minutes. That way someone can be heard. They know
15 minutes.
They know that you're there, right?
That's quick.
Right. Now it doesn't resolve the issue in 15 minutes, but
you're heard.
People want to be heard at the end of the day. And so then we try to resolve about 95% of those issues within the first hour.
Well, and I see that a lot of times it's I want you quickly, right? Yeah. But you might be in you might be working on somebody else's project. You might be working, and I think the world's on fire.
Sure.
And if I don't hear from you inside that 15 minutes, I'm like, I've got to go someplace else. Then I gotta Google this, or I've got, who's the next person.
Right.
So just by reaching out, I mean, it's like, hey, got you,
we heard you. We're there.
That's huge because I'll freak out as a business owner.
And most do. And at the end of the day, you said something important, which is I want to go focus on the things that I'm good at. Right. Yeah. And so, over time, that's what I've learned is like, and that's why I tell people, like, I get that you want TikTok. Tech is cool. It's fun, but you have a business that you need to run. And there's probably way better things that are better for your business that you focus your energy on than worrying about the technical side of some of this stuff.
Right.
It just will be.
Which brings me into kind of cybersecurity, right? Yeah. It could be a buzzword, a hashtag, whatever.
Yep.
But that's a scary area for all of us.
Yep.
Because we don't know.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
You and your team have it figured out, or a lot of it, right? I mean, it's constantly
it's
changing.
A big question, but yeah, certainly.
So what are some of the things as a small business owner would want to pay attention to as far as cybersecurity?
Yeah. So this has so many arms and legs, or whatever you want to call it. I've been doing this for a while, and I think, the place where things get hairy are usually what's the weakest link in the chain, and it's usually the people.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so it's usually the people who don't know any better. It's the people who aren't educated about what these things are. People are constantly getting tricked, scammed, social engineered.
Yeah.
And so for me, like when we talk about this with clients, we like to take a multi-step approach. The first one has to be education. As weird as it is, you'd think, well, what's education have to do anything? Users need to understand the impact of how many things are coming at them on a daily basis and how many mistakes are made purely just on speed because they see something that's urgent, right? Or they feel like someone's asking them for something, right? Yeah. And so our reptile brain just immediately kicks in when we have that, and we just do. And so what I've been trying to coach people on is let's get in the process of sending your users. There's now tools that you can send phishing campaigns to users. So they'll get fake emails, right? And then you'll get a report from your users that had clicked on those emails and interacted with them, so that you as a business owner can now say, "Oh, you're the guy letting people in," right?
So one of the places that I have an email address at, McHenry County College.
Yeah.
I've got 2 of my 3 strikes already.
Okay.
I'm laughing because I'm like, Yeah, the IT group that they use there at the college does the same thing,
Right.
And then I have to go through the phishing training.
Yep. You go through
again.
training, and hopefully you don't do it again.
And each time, and I'll ask you this, each time it's because I'm at a stoplight or something on my stupid hashtag pocket computer.
Yeah.
Right. Every time I've got caught on that, it's because I'm not in my, and so I've just had to tell myself, don't open anything on your phone.
Slow down, right?
It's it. Yeah.
I'll do presentations annually for clients on cybersecurity, and we spend a big section of the presentation just going through fake emails and trying to identify those things so that we can help them be thoughtful. The fact that like they're the sort of weak link in the chain, and they need to be really on their best behavior and doing the right things. I can augment a lot of technology on top of that to help protect the actual devices themselves and put in all kinds of security measures to block certain emails from coming in. But there's money to be made in this process. And so there's a lot of bad actors out there who are literally just sending emails in the hopes that they can just catch you and then hopefully get you to pay stuff. And it's getting targeted too now. Like the larger the organizations, they're getting targeted because they know the chances are if I get in there and I create a total mess, the likelihood is if you haven't done all the things you need to do to restore your systems in the event of something terrible happening, you're going to have to pay some amount of money. And the bigger you are, the more they're going to ask for. Right. And so it's just it's a terrible game, but it's changed dramatically in the last 5 or 6 years to that end.
Crazy, but I mean, you can see it, and it's so easy. How many people you don't know, but I mean, a ton of us look at emails and whatnot on our.
We're tricked too. There's times we look at an email, I'm like, man, that looks legit. Like, what do I do with it? But we're so conditioned to it that we just don't interact sometimes, and we'll just take that step back and like, yeah, maybe if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Yeah.
So explain, so outside of just those kind of things, you guys have the managed IT services and detecting and all that good stuff without getting too geeky. I mean, you and I could talk about it, right? I'd be like, hey, all right. Yeah. But how does Go, work to figure out those incidents, to help prevent those incidents, things like that?
Well, obviously, if something happens and something's down, the users are going to let us know immediately. But we do have tools in place that are alerting us to respective incidents that might occur. So, and we have a dashboard that's up on a screen all day long as incidents are coming in, potential incidents. We take those really serious, so we're immediately responding and reacting to those users.
So what you're saying is at Go, you if something happens on mine, it'll go boop or whatever.
We've got like a centralized management for some of our security software. It sends all this data to a big dashboard as things occur. Like within seconds, we're getting alerts of those things. And so we're trying to jump on those things immediately just because we know how nasty these things can get and we know how important it is. So we're doing those things. We're also, our backup strategy is pretty intense. So we're backing up your data locally. We're backing up remotely. We're backing up remotely. And then some clients want like a full air gapped environment where I have a backup of my environment from the last 30 days. And so if something terrible were to happen, that would be my last, the last thing I could possibly use to restore my system.
So speaking of that, talk to me, talk to everybody out there about, I'm using air quotes, the cloud.
Oh yeah.
Right. So for a lot of, all I know is that it's not stored on my phone or in my computer, and there's different clouds, right? Yeah. So help us understand that.
So, I mean, for I guess the easiest version of the cloud would be something like Office 365. If you've heard of that. So people will have their email. So now your email, instead of sitting on a server somewhere in your office, there's a server that's pretty much the same thing. It lives in a data center somewhere, fully redundant, certain internet connection, multiple internet connections, that kind of stuff. And that will be inside of Microsoft's environment. And so that would be sort of a cloud for email, right? Companies that use like CRM systems like Salesforce, for example, right? to manage their customers and their businesses. That's another cloud. That's a system that basically it's just a glorified term for the server's not here.
Okay.
It's over
Perfect.
there and it's managed under someone else from a physical standpoint. But you also have to it has to be a function of security. So you have to be thoughtful of like who the cloud providers are, what type of security they're providing. And like even we don't trust Microsoft. So we'll actually back up users' mailboxes inside of Office 365 to another third-party system, so that if something were to happen to Microsoft, probably won't, but if it did, I had the ability to restore data of that environment. And that happened recently with Google, I believe. They accidentally deleted an environment, and luckily the company had a copy of their stuff and they were able to restore it. It kind of went hush hush, I think. I'll get myself slapped for it, but like, so, but you, even in a cloud environment, you have to be thoughtful of, do you have copies of your data? Do you have information? And even with clients who are using the cloud, we're backing up some of we have a construction company that uses a cloud system for all their project management and all their, that kind of stuff. And it's all in the cloud, but we're getting an hourly backup of all their data just to keep it. So we have it. They use it for reporting purposes, but we also use it as an opportunity to say, well, we got a backup of all your data. So if something terrible will happen, we can be helpful and kind of go through that.
If people want to get in touch with you, and I'm going to throw the website up there, but if people want to get in touch with you,
sure.
What's the easiest way, best way to do it?
Obviously go to our website. There's a contact form there. You can fill that out. We'll get those emails and we'll kind of follow up with you. You can certainly call us. That would be the easiest way to get in touch with us. And
so go Chicago IT.
So it's gochicagoit.com.
Yep. Which is awesome. Easy, friendly website. You're not going to get confused at either. Some
Probably
of them
not.
are like,
right, for sure.
So you now have grown your business. I mean, what's this? How many troops you got on?
So we're looking for a 12th person.
Easy does.
We're in the process of doing that. So we had a team of solid 11. We've got sort of the help desk that deals with day-to-day stuff. We've got a project team that manages some of the larger projects and more complex systems. And then we have some marketing folks to help us develop business and do that sort of thing. And then my wife, who is the bookkeeper. So
good man.
Make sure you find a good bookkeeper if you're going to kick off an entrepreneurial business, because that's a lot of work.
So you also Go Technology Group also really has kind of found working with school systems and school districts, right? How did you fall into that, or was it something that you were like coming from that education piece, like I got this?
Yeah, we got introduced to a Catholic school in the suburbs, in the northwest suburbs, and they just needed sort of a company to help support their infrastructure around their networks, their wireless, some of the server stuff that they had. And so we just happened to, my wife was at a networking group, met with someone. She's like, "Oh, you have a business. We hate our IT." I hear that all the time, right?
Right.
And so I got introduced. They were going to go with another company, but we kind of talked through like our ability to serve quickly, to be on top of stuff, and that was really enticing to them. So fast forward about 7 years that we've been with them, we picked up a couple others along the way. And what we learned, and again, this is like one of those things when you're starting a business, you don't always foresee like what you're going to be doing, but things kind of opportunities land and you just kind of drive it. So we got really intimate with all the technology that schools are using. So things like smart boards. We became a smart board partner for Promethean, which is one of the largest smart board providers in the world, because they were using it in the classroom, like they were using it to teach. And so you have to learn how that all works. And they're simple devices, but it's cool to like actually see it at play.
Yeah.
And then started focusing on things like mobile device management. So as iPads are going to all these students, how are you managing and controlling all these devices instead of going to each one singularly? I'm now like, I've got 600 devices under management. I got to cut them up so that first grade gets these 7 apps and second grade gets these 9 apps and these security settings. Like, it's difficult. So that platform with mobile device management came to play. And the thing that really kind of kicked off, especially during COVID, was like the security around like access. So students accessing things that they shouldn't be, right? Or communicating to each other in ways that were, talking about self-harm or bullying or things like that. And there are tools that will allow you to like see that information
Really? Yeah.
in real time. It's pretty impressive. And they use AI to sort of generate some things. So our kids passing images of questionable things, these AIs will read through the images and they will alert the administration that stuff is going on. And so all these pieces started to come together, and we really got a good feel for like how the schools worked and the different pieces of it. Yeah. And we were able to sort of utilize that to extend out to other schools as we move forward. So it was kind of neat stuff.
And here's what I love about the Go Technology Group is you're talking like a person. Yeah. I have dealt with a lot of IT people who talk way above my head and a lot of acronyms and and you're like, what's PO? What? Yeah. You're like, wait, what did you say?
Exactly.
And you take a lot of anxiety. Your group takes a lot of anxiety out of what I don't know.
Yep.
And you make it make sense, which is I could sit here and talk to you all day. It's awesome.
Yeah, and we've trained the guys to just not use geek speak, right? Because like, who cares if you're really smart in a particular domain? Maybe you're really good at technology, but you couldn't like run a business if your life, you had to do something. Like business owners are business owners. They need help and they want to be talked to like another human being. That's all they want. And so we try to impart that kind of communication with the team to say, guys, no one wants to hear what a VPN is or what DNS or DHCP is. No one cares about that stuff. They just want the thing to work. Right.
That's it.
And so that's where that kind of plays in the part. And the guys are pretty good about that. I rarely hear someone go, you know what? That person was really technical.
Yeah.
But it certainly occurs.
Yeah. Bring it into reality, which is cool. Now the neat thing is Go. Can I just call it Go?
Yeah, call it Go. It's all good.
GTC, Go Technology Group. What I love about it is you guys kind of know exactly what technology can do, right?
Sure.
And so as you're talking with people, whether it's schools, governments, park districts, or just the small business, and I'm like, I need to be able to do this.
Yep.
You're able to go, oh, well, we can, is it?
Yes.
That's my computer noises there.
So funny. I mean, I think, and that's part of like meeting with clients. So the assessment does that, like I mentioned earlier. It kind of gives me a depiction of like, what are you trying to do? Like, what are the things that are missing that you're like been talking and wanting to do for a long time? And I love finding those things because that's where I get to be like, oh, have you tried these 3 things, right?
Right.
I'm like, no, I haven't. Or, yes, I have, right?
Yeah.
And then the annual reviews that we do with clients as well kind of play into that part as well, where we can kind of be like, all right, what's changing? What's new? And what's nice too is we've trained the guys to keep an eye on their ear on the ground. To be like, hey, when you hear certain things, someone talking about something they're trying to solve that's outside the scope of what you're capable of doing, don't say no, right? Just say, yes, we'll look into it and I'll get back to you, and just throw it either in my direction or one of my other team members who's a bit more thoughtful at that level, who's wanting to do those sort of analyses. And that helps a ton because it just helps us help people more in a more direct way.
And, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier and then just a minute ago was the annual reviews.
Yep.
There's a lot of IT companies that don't. Hey, okay, it's all good.
Right.
And we just, you got a problem?
Right.
Walk me through what one of those annual reviews kind of might look like.
Sure.
Do you point out things like, hey, you've been paying for this, didn't really use this, but if we move it over here.
Yep. So it kind of comes back to some of the IT director services I used to be a function of. So we look at things like, what are the technologies that you're using? Are there new technologies that have come up that potentially could influence your cost or functionality that might be better for your organization? And we're constantly every year trying to add some new software service that makes sense to the greater masses. So like for a while we weren't doing phones. And so then we decided, you know what, like these are like little computers to us. We think we can manage it. And we did. And so like 5 years ago, we decided, hey, we're going to start offering phone services. And it was all cloud-based and it was great. And people
Yeah.
were kind of driving into it and they loved the functionality and it just kind of worked. Right.
And that's the voice over IP.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's that ability to just talk to them and just say, and more importantly, like, what's changed in your business?
Mhm.
Where do you see it going? How does it work? You know, and I did it recently. I've been working at a park district here locally. I've been sort of the interim IT director there for about the last year, and we revamped their whole environment. But it was like, it took time to talk to management,
Yeah.
get an understanding of like where they wanted to go and where the things needed to be. And so that process is still going on, is like things needed to get upgraded. We had some good successes there and they like to keep us there because it's like, you understand what we're doing here,
Right.
and you're helping drive our team forward. Now, eventually we'll get out of that business at some point, but at this point, like, we're just trying to help them kind of bridge that gap and become self-sustaining on their own. So there's different ways of helping people. It just depends on like the scenario and the opportunity.
Yeah. And because you guys haven't been in business more than last night,
Right.
I mean, you've got, and there's so many different avenues that, hey, if it's not one of your avenues, it's the old saying in Chicago, right? I got a guy.
Yeah.
I got a gal
Absolutely.
that can do that, that are trusted, that are vetted by you and your team, so that your customers will go, oh, okay,
Right.
thanks, John. Okay, whew.
Right.
I don't have to worry about that.
Sure.
Then. And that's a huge piece again for the entrepreneur who we don't know what's happening. So, hey, you need this, and I go, oh, okay, let me Google that, and
Right.
I call Jim's, IT, a camera or whatever,
Yeah.
and I go, I'd rather just get a Ring doorbell. And you're like,
Right. Exactly.
right. And I think that is so huge, because so many entrepreneurs, not even just entrepreneurs, businesses, schools, governments, don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
But they have somebody who read an article, or his kid took
Yep.
a class at the local tech school and goes, no, we got this.
Yeah.
Why is that so dangerous?
It's an interesting game. It's like cost versus like security, right? Or risk management. And look, like, not everyone can afford to have a full blown MSP in their environment, and you need to get help somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so why it's dangerous is like, you're just dealing with someone who's just sort of like piecing things together, right?
Yeah.
It's like having, if you're building a house, for example, you want to make sure that all your trades they know their stuff.
Yeah.
So that, like,
You usually don't
when
have
I-
the electrician
when I
do the
start-
plumbing.
exactly. When I start the faucet, like, I know the water is going to come out.
Right.
It's going to go in the drain and not somewhere else.
Right.
And it might work, but it's going to be unleaky, right?
Right,
And
right.
so that's where some of the technology stuff we see, it's like, oh man. And even like in places where like they had a quote unquote expert, and you're just like, what happened here? Like, why didn't things get done the way they were supposed to? And then we're just learning that maybe that person wasn't the right fit,
Been
or
doing it since the
you know.
80s that way. Yeah.
well, and that's just it, and I've come across some guys that have been in business for 30, 40 years, and like the space has changed because they were used to doing things a certain way.
Yeah.
And like now it's hard because like there's certain things that we want to be thoughtful of, the alerting and the security and the backups and all that stuff. Like, that's what we care about. Like, at the end of the day, we care about your data and we want to support you well, but I just want to make sure that nothing terrible happens to you. And if it does, there's a means to get out of it. And so a lot of times with someone you quote unquote use as like, hey, I'll just call my cousin, Joe, and he'll come over and help me out. You will, but Joe might not be thoughtful of, well, what if this happens? And what if your data gets here? And what if someone logs in here? And why isn't this secured? And et cetera, et cetera. So
the hard thing for Gen Xers, I'm gonna throw that out there, the Gen Xers, is that was the big computer programming. So that's all we think about when we think about technology.
Sure.
Is somebody sitting there
right.
programming a computer, and it's so not that.
No, it's not.
That it's sometimes hard for us, or me, right? Anyway, to wrap our head around exactly all the moving pieces and everything that you do. But that's why Go Technology Group is so good, because you got it.
Right. And that's what we try to do, right?
Right.
And like, I'll reiterate, you said it, like, focus on the things that you're really good at, and we'll focus on the things that we're good at, and we'll be good partners, and we'll just kind of keep you happy. So,
All right. Now I'm going to shift gears on you a little
sounds
bit.
good.
Because I'm fascinated with your journey. And so many people who listen to Let's Talk Local, again, local company, Go Technology Group, check them out at
GoChicagoIT.com.
Thank you.
Yep.
And you went to school 4 years. So we bought into the quote unquote American dream, went to school 4 years, got a good job. And
Yep.
then you were like, moved your way up the ladder.
Yep.
And life was good. And then you said, I've got to jump. What advice do you have for young people? When I say young people, people who are looking to make that jump, that risk of, hey, I'm going into business for myself. What advice would you give them?
It's interesting. My son's going to college next year, and so we're talking through, like, he's a young kid, right?
Yeah.
And he thinks he knows what he wants to do, and that's great,
course.
and that's phenomenal, and I love it. And he considers, like, running a business someday and doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got lucky in that I got really good at something. I got into tech. I ran it for a while. I moved my way up. I saw how things worked. I really understood something, right? I even went as far as starting to learn how to program. And like, I touched probably every aspect of IT at some point. Like, I even went as far as taking a self-driving engineering course online just because I wanted to see how AI and machine learning worked. And so, like, I started to learn it all. And that necessarily, I might not be an expert in any given space, but I learned enough to get a lot of stuff done, and I got good at it. So that for me is like the first thing is, like, whatever you end up doing, find something that you're good at and be able to execute on it. The other thing I worried about early on was, like, how am I going to survive? Right. That's a stressful thing. And that there's some good to that because it drives your desire to get up every day and do something. Right. And so in the beginning, it's crummy because it's a lonely road. You're there by yourself. There's nobody there with you. You might have, like, a family member, but it's hard to explain to somebody what it's like to feel alone as an entrepreneur unless you've done it. It's just it's an empty space, and you're just like, what am I doing here? Yeah. And so one of the things I did was just to keep myself busy all the time, right? I would join the networking groups. I'd force myself to get around people. And I did it more probably as a defense mechanism of coping with the situation, going, I don't have a customer. What am I going to do? Right. And then being patient with time, because it will happen as long as you keep cracking at it. Yeah. I say that discipline's like a muscle. So you have to keep working that muscle just to see how disciplined you are. But, like, once you get through that, then things start to pick up, and then you'll have different challenges. Right. But that was the hardest part, is right in the beginning. Yeah.
And that's why I say you live happily ever after. It doesn't mean that you live perfectly ever after. I mean, it's you're going to struggle, you're going to fight. Yeah. And if you've got that entrepreneurial bone as you do, and a lot of the people out there listening do as well, is you can't sleep at night knowing, you just can't turn it off. And it's like, when you get to that spot, people are like, oh, that's got to be exhausting. I'm like, no, it's wonderful. Yeah. What was exhausting was going to work for somebody going, hey, I could walk in and they give me a pink slip today. Yeah. And then what?
Right. Yeah. To be fair, like, I still have bosses, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I got about 40 or 50 bosses between my team and every single one of my clients. Right. And so, but it's a different kind of relationship. It's a different kind of boss. Right. Yeah. And as long as you treat it that way, it kind of works itself out.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way that you built the business. I love the way that you do business because in a world that's very, very anxiety ridden for people who aren't in that space, but know that we have to have that space. Right. It's like bookkeeping too, right? I mean,
yeah, it is. It absolutely
because debit's like, listen, I got about $50 in that account. Right. I'll be out until payday. But I mean, those. When you can find a team like the Go Technology Group that's willing to listen, that's willing to help, that's willing to invest in my business, saying, hey, here's what we can do as a partner. Right. It's a big deal. Sure. And I think that's great. What are the next? What do you see on the horizon for Go?
Yeah. So we're pushing more into security. For sure. We're working towards getting more of our teams certified in that space, primarily because I think there's a lot of opportunities in the government space. The government's spending billions of dollars in technology,
They should.
and it's difficult to get into that space in which to sort of provide services. So we're going through that exercise now. It's going to be a while until we get it all squared away. I mean, the good news is we're already doing work with governments.
Nice.
We work with park districts, some local villages that we've done work with, but there's a whole new step beyond that. And I think the security side of that is not going to get old anytime soon. So we're looking at things like that. And then, as AI has become more influential in our lives, I mean, it's going to transform things in a very short period of time. So we're trying to look at things like what tools are available that clients can use to kind of facilitate that. And so, but we have to get better at it, and we have to learn it, and we have to understand it.
Thank you. You don't think it's going to be like iRobot, where they're taking over? AI is taking over the world.
Not yet. It's going to be
not yet.
It's a while until that happens, but yeah.
The thoughts and opinions. I just want to make sure, because that's the big buzzword. There's so many people who are. I'm like, man, we've been living with AI for so long. We just, now it's just a neat buzzword.
Yeah.
And I jokingly said, I'm like, listen, it's a computer. Just unplug it.
Yeah.
The computer can't
try to get billions of people to turn it off, and then they're not telling you about it. So it's not going away anywhere.
No. But I think it's something that, as you said, your team is embracing it, is on it, is working with it, to understand it. That way I don't necessarily have to, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else? We're right on the back end of this. Anything else that you want to throw out there? Any shout outs? Any special deals going on?
No, I just, I'm humbled and thankful for the opportunity that this sort of business and sort of journey has kind of brought me. I've been able to meet some incredible people. So like everyone on my team, they're great. They get it. They understand what we're trying to do. They're trying to execute things for clients. Our clients love us. We don't lose clients.
That's awesome.
For the few that we've lost, it was primarily because of like acquisition and things that were sort of out of our control, but that's like less than a handful. And so to be able to do that speaks wonders, because I can go to a prospective client and be like, people don't leave us. Like it takes a lot of work for me to get in front of you and close this sort of opportunity, but we're not going anywhere. We don't intend to. And so to me, that's the most important thing that I've kind of learned along the way, is the relationships that you're building with people. And they inevitably, like, our clients are the ones that made us successful. Like, because they introduce us to new things, to new people, to new things. Cool. And it's great to hear when they're like, oh, by the way, I talked to so-and-so, they're going to be calling you soon. Right.
When you can grow organically like that. That's success. Yeah, that is awesome.
So, and then a lot of the marketing we're doing now, we're just playing in that space. I think that's going to help us grow as well. So, but it's been a journey. It's been stressful along the way, like anything, but it's been good stuff for sure.
Yeah, John, I know you're busy. I can't thank you enough for taking time out here on a Tuesday afternoon to chat with us. And we'd love to have you come back anytime.
Sure.
And if there's anything we can ever do to help out, let us know. But for John and everybody over at the Go Technology Group, it's another great episode of Let's Talk Local. Until next time, it's your dime. So let's talk local.